Can I point out another area where I think you're inconsistent?
Please do.
Morality was number one. Number two is the real problem of evil. Let me ask you this. Is God okay with sin? Does he desire any sin? Does he want sin?
Well, this is kind of an interesting question if you don't believe in good and evil.
I'm asking you. Remember, these questions are formed to trap you from your worldview, not mine.
Sure. What is good and what is evil? Give me a little context here so I can work.
Your definition of good and evil, which is probably an outflowing of God's nature. Anything that goes contrary to God's nature is probably evil. Anything that goes with it is probably good. I'm asking you this question. Is God okay with, desires any, wants any sin?
God's holy and just, and sin can't abide in his presence. So that would be a no, sir.
No. Okay, this is where I think you're inconsistent. You ready?
I think I know where you're going. Hit me.
Is God omniscient?
You're a classic, dude. You're a classic. Yes, he's omniscient.
Okay. Did God want to create the universe?
Yeah.
Did God know that sin would result from his wanting to create the universe?
I'm just going to go ahead and lay a trap for you. He foreordained sin to exist.
Oh. God foreordained. Can you use, that's a big word for the people from South Dakota. What's another way of saying foreordained?
So this is not just something that God allowed to happen. This is something that God knew and intended to happen so that he could display his glory. Like there's a world in which God never allows sin to enter the earth. Like
let's keep this really simple. You said God does not want any sin, right?
God cannot stand sin in his presence. No.
Is God present in the world today?
Depends on what you mean by the presence of God.
Is God omnipresent?
Yes, his omniscient presence is over here, but not in his personal presence.
Not in his room. He likes to keep his room clean, like Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, that's a great way of describing it. Sure.
Okay, so God doesn't want sin in his presence, doesn't care for sin, doesn't desire sin, and he knowingly created a world that would that he knew that would result in sin.
Yes, 100%.
You don't see a problem with that?
No. Like I said, the problem only results if you have a tiny view of God. If you have a big view of God and you realize that when God says that he allowed this thing to exist so he could display his glory and power for all of us to understand him better, and you understand knowing God is to be the ultimate good, all of a sudden it's a wonderful thing that God allowed these things to exist so he could show us more of who he was.
God hates sin.
Yes.
But you're saying he wanted sin on earth.
Yes.
You don't find that inconsistent?
To serve his purposes, and he destroys and has victory and conquers sin and death. That's kind of the whole story of the gospel.
Can we just say that again for the audience to hear? God hates sin.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes.
But he desired sin to be on earth.
He ordained sin to be on earth to display his power.
No, not just ordained. He wanted it.
I feel like we're using the wrong word.
He desired it. He wanted it. He decreed it. He caused it by creating.
I like all those words better than wanted.
And you don't see any inconsistency there.
Like I said,
I hate sin.
The greatest good is knowing God and having God revealed. And there are parts of God's that would never be revealed to us, and we would never understand if sin didn't exist.
There's another inconsistency. You just said that the greatest good is to have God revealed.
Is to know God and have his glory revealed. Yeah.
So you're saying you can get better than God alone?
No.
Well, hang on. The greatest good is the revealing of God.
Yeah.
If before creation there was no revealing.
Okay.
So that means after creation is better than before creation because now we can reveal.
Clearly, yes.
Right. So the world of God plus creation is better than the world of God alone. That's what you're saying.
I think it displays more aspects of God rather than better than or worse than, because the presence of God is all that's necessary for God.
You use the word greater. That's an inconsistency.
I guess we should ask greater for who? Greater for us or greater for God?
Greater for God.
Not greater for God.
Okay.
Because God is self-sufficient too.
So if it's not greater for God, if God doesn't get any greater by creating, why create?
Well, you kind of have to ask God that question, dude.
Are you giving me an I don't know answer? I have nothing against I don't know, but
Yeah, there's some things we know in Scripture that God brought more glory to Himself by creating the world and existence and showing His love for a sinful people.
see, there's another inconsistency. More glory to himself by creating, you just said.
So I see what you're
You think
saying.
God needs more glory? Desires more glory? Wants more glory by creating? Are you saying that there was less glory before creation?
Don't have a glory meter calibrated enough to answer that question.
Well, use
And
the words more glory. More means
here's what I will admit to you. Using the words greater and more and quantitative measurements of glory is not a proper way for me to express that.
Joe, you came on here really on fire, I think, to show the inconsistencies in my worldview.
Sure.
And the last half hour, I can tell it in your eyes. I can see it in your face that have you even thought about these things before?
I would just say that the graphics are too low if you're seeing it in my eyes and my face, because I have thought of these, like I